What's up, chat? Welcome back to the stream. It's Wednesday, and the Warhamster has given us some delicious reveals from 11th edition Warhammer 40k, which is pretty exciting. So we're going to talk about Leagues of Votann today. Apparently, people were just posting. Apparently there is stuff from the new battle report, I guess. So maybe we'll look through that too. Because I don't know where those exactly came from, but I bet they came from the new Warhammer TV thing, which means I may need to buy my Warhammer TV subscription again so I can look at it. But in any case, we have new Leagues of Votann faction focus article, which should be fun, and that's what we're going to hop into, as always, with the video, so we can see what's going on. So yeah, I think we'll skip to 90 seconds. This is only an 11-minute video. Let's go to 80 seconds, see what we get. Hiya!
Because carriers already have, ability to get up the table
sorry.
earlier in the pre-deployment, but then all your Sagittars will have Scout 6 as well. There was previous versions of the Leagues of Votann in the previous edition that where you would see 6 Sagittars in a list, which is the most amount you can take legally in your 2000
I cannot hear what they're saying.
Might be a thing again, where you still might take some Capricus carries with your Jaegers, but then having like probably 3 Sagittars will have Scout 6 as well. There was previous versions of
off with armored trailblazers, exactly as you were saying, this leans into the transport game of the Leagues of Votann.
So of course, Jaegers and Capricus carriers already have ability to get up the table earlier in the pre-deployment, but then all your Sagittars will have Scout 6 as well. There was previous versions of the Leagues of Votann in the previous edition that where you would see 6 Sagittars in a list, which is the most amount you can take legally in your 2,000-point army, and that might be a thing again, where you still might take some Capricus carries with your Jaegers, but then having like probably 3+, probably even 5, 6 Sagittars all scouting up the table, I think is really cool.
Sort of leaning into the Leagues of Votann.
So the Scout has 2 abilities now. You can either move 6 inches, or you can post to deploy after the rest of the table deploys. I mean, the spring game move, I think, is much better, but I think for units with heavy weapons, like a Sagittar, potentially, I think there is a use case to be able to deploy responsibly to where your opponent goes, where you can start to hit their light stuff in the front on turn 1. I have a suspicion that Grimnirs are very good, by the way, and I think Sagittars holding Grimnir is actually going to be sick.
Votann almost as the transport army, right?
Yes.
They've got a lot of tools now that help them with that kind of game.
Absolutely, and these are transports on the Sagittars that don't just like hold guys. They have legitimate firepower as well, which is very exciting, especially seeing if you wanted to like run them as like a spearhead or a nugget of Sagittars, you could really go into a flank very hard with their firepower.
Yeah. Well, looking at the other things that this detachment brings, you have an enhancement which is called optimized attack lines. This is an upgrade that you can give to Sagittars, to one of the unit Sagittars, nice. And the unit gets mobile.
I love this. So the way this works in my brain is that's a unit that has some berserkers inside of it, possibly with a named character that supports berserkers, and then that one scouts, and then the first turn advances in a straight line.
I think is the name that you're looking for. I mean, I guess like the berserkers behind it shouldn't, unless you can charge out of a transport, which I doubt you can. After it moves, I don't know necessarily if that matters so much. If it matters suited to your transport, in fact, range units might be better supported by the mobile keyword. But in any case, mobile models can move horizontally through dense terrain features. However, they cannot move vertically through dense terrain features, which is neat. I think we've been seeing some ways to get mobile on stuff, and there's also some scuttlebutt that some units will be able to gain mobile. You can move horizontally through dense terrain features, provided that all sections of the terrain feature that the moving model's base would move through are 2 inches or less in height. Otherwise, the moving model must move vertically to ascend or descend such sections. It cannot move through ceilings and floors while doing so. That's actually going to be really annoying. Like, parkouring is actually going to be very difficult, because if you can't move through a ceiling, you have to move, theoretically, up and then inside and then down and then over and then back down and then inside again and then down. It's like a coastline problem, right? It's like as soon as you can't go through a floor, the floor then like quadruples the amount of distance you have to actually move, which is going to be wild.
Most aggressive position to attack your opponent in the middle of the table, and then you just stage up there behind a wall, holding the berserkers and making your opponent figure it out.
Mobile effectively means that you could ignore terrain as you move. So if there's a wall or something in the way, normally you'd have to kind of navigate around it. You can just basically bulldoze all the way through it and pop out the other side.
Yep, and of course you can roll an advance on that move. You've already moved 6 inches with your scout. You go straight in. The reason I'm talking about Jaegers so much is because having infiltrate, meaning that you can hold space to activate the scout. Because what you don't want to have is no infiltrating units, and then your opponent infiltrates and blocks off the scout moves on the Sagittars, and then you don't get to do it.
Sort of kind of combined arms.
Yes,
plus
exactly.
You should have
still
scout on
your Jaegers in this detachment so that your Sagittars get to
Capricus carriers as well. So there's theoretically a lot of scouting vehicles in this particular build. There's also an upgrade, should be noted as well. So you can take through this 3 times. So you can have 3 scouting Sagittars that move through walls potentially. Which is actually sick.
Use this awesome detachment ability.
Giving you another tool in the toolbox for your Sagittar.
This is huge.
You have a stratagem, which
they have
I don't think we've seen a stratagem that works quite like this before, but it's called Outflanking Armor, and basically allows 2 Sagittar to come on in your opponent's movement phase.
So this is not rapid ingress. This is one
this
CP,
is wild, actually.
Rapid ingress, 2 Sagittars specifically. And you can still use rapid ingress if you wanted to.
Crazy.
So you could have 3 units arriving from reserve in your opponent's turn, meaning you can effectively null deploy and then really change, at the drop of a hat, change the outlook of the game.
Or entirely swing a flank.
Correct.
You could commit heavily to the center. Late game, you could kind of very aggressively go for the enemy deployment zone. Loads of options.
I guess a lot of that depends on how good the like LOS blocking along the sides of the table. If you think about layout 1 currently in the CA 2025 layouts, there's like little LOS blockers along the edges that prevent like long lines of sight through, and this sort of stratagem is crazy on those because you can put the Sagittars to attack your opponent's expansion while probably being out of line of sight. There's a lot of cases too where your opponent may not necessarily want to attack the Sagittars if you deploy them from this way. This is pretty sweet. If there's an up-down for Sagittars, that would be actually sick too. If they could combo.
Just having,
I do wonder, like, if like double rapid ingress is that good, because it does require 2 command points and you have to put a ton of units in reserve. But maybe it's fine.
This as a tool will make your opponent
play differently.
Think very carefully about all of their deployments.
I love it so much. The only thing you're giving up is the fact that Sagittars scout 6 and you use but you're trading your detachment ability to get away without having the Jaegers of the infiltrate, and you play it against reserve and make sure you can keep doing it.
This is a detachment effectively that makes your characters and your elite units better.
Exactly right. So the Avatars of the Ancestors is a attachment what's going to affect your Karl, Einhir Champions, Einhir Hearthguard, Uther the Destined, and they're all going to get reroll 1s to wound on their range attacks when they target something within 9 inches.
So very good at
Hearthband,
either deep striking in or moving forward with the transport and then just kicking an enemy unit off an objective or a key point on the battlefield.
Exactly right. So people who are familiar with the Hearthband detachment as it exists in the current edition or the edition we're just leaving will be pretty familiar with how this one's going to be structured. And it's just going to keep doing what it's been doing. And it's been one of the most powerful detachments or ways to play Votann for the last couple of months.
Yeah. And now obviously you can combine this with other detachments, so you can have this as well as some of the other things we've been talking about.
Because in the previous design space, you would ostensibly take your 3 units of Hearthguard and their associated characters, and they would get juiced up to the max by the
nothing else in your army benefits,
and nothing else would significantly benefit from those rules. All the stratagems were simply tied in just to those units. But now this is only part of the package now, part of the design structure for your detachment in the expenditure of your detachment points. So this is really cool.
Well, let's have a look at some of the enhancements and the stratagem. The first one we're going to look at is the High Karl. This effectively allows one of your
exist in Hearthband right now? I feel like High Karl is an enhancement. Oh, it is. Oh boy. So does this indicates that Hearthband might be leaving. Ooh. I don't know if I like that so much, chat. Yikes. And it's the same enhancement. It could be that they copy them over, but we don't know what's happening to a lot of those digital releases detachments. And it very much could be that Hearthband is going the way of the dodo. In which case, RIP. Yikes. I wonder if they talk about this though. Combine armored trailblazers with Brandfast Oathband. That makes sense. Hearthguard Covenant could reinforce any army with a powerful unit or two of elite warriors. You can also use all 3 of the 1DP detachments together. Blah blah blah. So the only thing they really indicate is that Brandfast Oathband is likely 2 DP. So the Hearthguard themselves, they reroll 1s, right? So theoretically, we are paying a detachment point to give reroll 1s to hit and wound, but you lose access to all of the AP characteristic improvements, which I think is going to be a big deal because those become more relevant with the new cover rules. Especially since, so often you can ignore cover with Leagues of Votann anyway. I don't know about that one, shit. Yikes. That makes me sad.
The units to fight on death.
Yeah, so when this unit has not been selected to fight in this phase, roll a d6 for every unit that gets removed in the fight phase, and on a 4+ they'll fight on death. This is a great ability.
Yeah, so that's for the whole unit as well. It's
yes,
not
it is.
just for the character. So you're talking probably a special rule.
Exactly right, and take a pound of.
This is an ability that makes your Einhir Hearthguard, have +1 strength, and if they use a yield point, also have sustained hits.
Yeah, this is really good, and I believe a similar version of this was existing in the previous detachment. But +1 strength on the strength bands of the existing damage output, the range output of the Hearthguard unit, that being the Plasma option or the Volkite. Both of those really benefit from this. I think more so the Plasma will benefit from the strength more than the Volkite, but the Volkite really likes the sustained hits because it generates...
You're fishing for more
devastating,
attacks, right?
devastating wounds. You have more chances to get the devastating wounds, which is also going to pay off when you're shooting at a unit within 9 inches where you get the real 1 to wound.
Yeah, so some excellent little combos there. And then last up, you've got Materialization Matrices.
So that's also one. We're going to talk about that, I guess, in a sec. I guess the question is so there's the 6-inch pilot consolidate, which is very strong in the new edition because you have overrun mechanics, and you can also consolidate anywhere you want onto objective terrain features, which is kind of hugely powerful. And then superior craftsmanship is +1 damage in melee against monsters and vehicles. All of these are kind of, and I believe, and shoot and fall back, fall back, shoot and do stuff. All of these are kind of important, and losing any component of the Hearthband sort of build is gonna be really bad for that composition. So, I don't know, chats. I do think that there are some stuff like the cover changes, for example, definitely are helpful for Leagues of Votann. But I was kind of expecting for them to keep that play pattern where they use play this trading game with the Einhir Hearthguard, and it feels like that's going to be maybe less good, especially if something like Needguard Oathband is 3 detachment points, and then you can't supplement it with these guys. Obviously, if this detachment is depowered, it would, that would be fine if it became 1 detachment point. But it would be sad, I think, to lose the archetype entirely if it can't combine with a lot of the other detachments.
This basically allows you to deep strike those units nice and close to the enemy.
You know it, you love it. Your Terminator equivalents, your Hearthguard, are going to be able to arrive 6 inches away from the opponent. Not going to be able to clear a charge, pretty fair, but they're going to get right up into the action and become a major problem very quickly.
And this is really useful in this edition because some of those objectives are now quite large.
Yeah,
right?
Needguard Oathband is in the codex. They said that they're not getting rid of any codex attachments, so it would be wild if they didn't have Needguard Oathband. That would blow my mind. Interesting indicator here, chat, is that they just mentioned Materialization Matrices is a 6-inch deep strike. Obviously, it still doesn't let you declare a charge. However, that indicates to me that I don't think that 6-inch deep strikes are changing, meaning that they have significantly nerfed that ability. So all the detachments that were relying on 6-inch charges out of deep strikes, like Demonic Incursion, Subterranean Assault, all of those become whatever the percentage point is. like 12% worse or something in order because of the changes to the charge rules. That's very spooky. I guess like it is easier to hit those, like to be able to declare those charges because of the new engagement rules, where you have to roll the distance between you and your opponent, but you can engage at 2 inches, so you can't like wall screen. So it's going to be easier, in my opinion. Well, we'll see how it plays out, but I think it's going to be easier for things like monsters and greater demons to hit charges out of reserve because you can't wall screen them as easily. However, the fact that you have to roll 7s instead of 6s is a massive, massive change.
They are more than 6 inches across. So you have the potential of something like an enemy unit that's just towed into an objective, a big piece of terrain. You can drop in on top of the objective, still shoot them, and basically claim it.
Yeah, fantastic. Great point, Eddie.
Last up, we have the
that is a good point. I think that actually 6-inch deep strikes do get empowered a little bit by the fact that the objectives are so fucking huge. There's like a 14-inch long distance objective in the middle of the table. Which is kind of wild.
This is one that works with the Hernkin and gives them a bunch of great bonuses. This combos nicely with some of the other abilities and gives one of the kind of least synergistic bits of the army some great combos.
Yeah, so this is getting your utility units, your Pioneer bikes, your Jaegers, and really bringing them and incentivizing them. This is one of the ones that I think will see the most play day one, as I've mentioned in some of these other faction focuses, because this is a bunch of utility units you are already taking in so many different lists. Your Hernkin units, your Pioneers, these are mainstays, and Votann players have been able to use them really well and get great experience, and they become very powerful tools. So your friendly Hernkin.
Oh, that's actually. Oh, hold up. Wait, this fucking rules. Excuse me. Fucking alright. Hardkin units most of the time get +1 to hit. Okay. I guess it doesn't stack with the army ability. So like it's like +2 to hit doesn't really help that much because it's not a ballistic skill improvement for the army ability. So it doesn't like counteract cover or anything. Yeah, +1 to hit roll. So I guess it's like not the craziest thing ever. Especially with how objective focused I think the game is going to be, right? There's going to be so many units on objectives. However, that said, this is great. I think, just like Hernkin Pioneers, just like blasting people. Just with 1,000,000 gunshots if they get to within 12. And they oftentimes want to get to close to your opponent in order to steal their objectives anyway, right? Because the whole goal of Hernkin Pioneers anyway is to flip objectives for yield points. And like most of the time they're doing that within 12 inches. They're like rapid ingressing and then running in, or they're just like assaulting in or something. And just having +1 to hit, like when they do that, is awesome. That seems great. Okay.
Units ranged attacks that target a unit within 12 inches have +1 to hit rolls. So that means if you're shooting a target that's in cover, you negate cover. And if you're not, even if they're not in cover, you still get a bonus within 12 inches.
Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't totally negate cover. So I think the thing that's going to be important to keep in mind is that if you shoot at someone who is in cover, but assuming that the modifier rules don't change, of course. Caveat, it's a new edition, anything could be different. However, based on the current rules, Oh, thank you for the super chat.
Young 6,931 donated $2 through super chat.
My phone also.
Capricus defenders are Hernkin.
I mean, a Capricus defender's like good at shooting. It's like 2 autocannons, right? You get like the big I guess you get big railgun. Big railgun hits on 3s. That's kind of fun. And then like the autocannon. I guess that could be good. I also do think as well, on the note of Capricus carriers, the ability to shoot and scoot is actually way stronger in this edition because the towing terrain for line of sight is massive. Because you can like tow in and then shoot and then move out. That was something that wasn't available in this current edition. There were very limited. There's very limited utility to get yourself out of line of sight with the shoot and scoot. However, it is possible to be firing and then removing yourself from the equation with a 1 inch normal move. There's also there's this capacity with Scout to counter deploy your opponent, so you could potentially create situations where your scouting units could set up after they've placed or put themselves in the front line and give themselves good staging positions, and then you could hit your opponent and then move back out of line of sight blockers depending on the layout. So there's probably a lot more play for Capricorn defenders. I bet that's true. But to my point earlier, the thing to keep in mind here is that because both the detachment ability here and the army ability here are +1 to hit, and cover is a -1 ballistic skill modifier, if you benefit from both of them, you are still going to only you won't net to +1. You're going to be basically +1 -1 unless the modifier rules change. So you're gonna end up just being at your normal ballistic skill, even if you're +2 to hit and -1 ballistic skill, because the other these two detachment abilities are the two abilities only stack to +1, and they don't counteract -1 ballistic skill.
Playing into the way that this army works, you've got some enhancements and some stratagems. The enhancement, the first one we'll look at, is pan-spectral lock-ons. This basically allows a pioneer unit to make enemy units more visible for the rest of your army.
Yeah, exactly right. So in your shooting phase, you can select one visible enemy unit within 12 of this unit. That enemy unit is spotted, and while it's spotted, you'll get +3 detection range against them. So going, if no other modifiers, going from 15 to 18 inches.
Yeah, so your pioneer is one of your fastest units. They can zip up the board, spot the enemy unit, bring the rest of the firepower to bear. Most of your Leagues of Votann firepower tends to be in the sort of 24-inch range. So by the time you've got a kind of +3 onto that, most of your army will probably be able to bring their firepower
to be able to move into that 18-inch range. Exactly right. And this works really well on Pioneers specifically because, of course, they move off the table at the end of your opponent's turn. They come back on the table, and then you can position yourself perfectly to not only be within 12 for your personal
So actually, we can talk about that. That's a good call out. Real quick, to talk about this interaction, because I think this is probably going to be one of the most misplayed interactions of the edition, assuming again none of the core rules that surround it change. But this ability, this is not a unique ability, right? Tau also have it with weapon support systems and stuff. This ability does not ignore cover. This ability ignores modifiers to the hit roll, which means -1 to hit. So if you shoot something that has an effect that says subtract 1 from the hit roll, so Grandmaster Voldus, for example, is while leading a unit, subtract 1 from hit rolls targeting it, which will probably turn into just this unit, subtract 1 from hit rolls targeting this unit. Roll bar Searchlight in this case will ignore that. It will not ignore cover because cover doesn't modify your hit roll. Cover modifies your target to hit because it reduces your ballistic skill, but it does not modify your hit roll. And I think that a lot of people are getting those two things confused. That is distinctly different from the Hecaton, which says ignore modifiers to the ballistic skill characteristic. So the Hecaton Land Fortress ignores cover naturally, assuming none of the rules change. The Hernkin Pioneers do not ignore the -1 from cover. Your opponent still gets cover. There's 3 games when it did hidden come up once. It did a little bit. It made it so that stuff had to push forward to attack each other. But there was never a situation where it was I'm boned because you're hidden. But it just meant that melee units had to extricate the enemy. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. If you have this ability, ignore modifiers to hit roll, that does not let you ignore the -1 from cover. Important to note. Unless they rule that, of course, that ballistic skill modifiers count as hit roll modifiers, but at least in 10th edition, that's not how it works.
You'll also be getting that detection range off as well.
Yeah, lots of the abilities we've been looking at here for the Leagues of Votann give them some quite devastating, very short-range firepower.
Yes.
And the last stratagem we've got to talk to you about is Scornful Analysis, which effectively allows you to remove the cover save from the enemy. So a lot of the League of Votann play is about pushing enemy units off objectives with a torrent of very short-range firepower.
Another thing that this keys off Hernkin units specifically, and essentially that unit will just select an enemy unit that's visible within 12, and the entire rest of your army will ignore that model's cover, the cover save of that unit. They'll all they will get tagged with ignores cover for the entire rest of your army. Yeah. It's actually quite awesome.
So you could imagine, for example, if you combat it with the rest of this force, you could have that unit move forward, spot that enemy unit. You could deep strike in some of your heavy hitters. You could outflank some of your Sagittars. You could bring a huge amount of firepower to bear.
Having access
on an enemy
to
unit.
Ignores cover that does not require you to shoot people with Brokir Thunderkin is fucking rad, dude. Select invisible enemy within 12 inches. You just start the shooting phase, so you can't do like weird shit where you like double move a defender and then use it because the defender hasn't double moved yet. But you can't just run a little biker guy up, and it doesn't require you to shoot them, so it doesn't trigger any reactive effects. You don't pull any casualties from it. That's pretty awesome. It doesn't say till end of phase. Yeah, so the implication is I don't believe any stratagem or ability has included a timing, like an end state. I believe that it will be a core rule that an effect used in a phase will proceed for only that phase. Because otherwise, literally, I think every single effect that they've showed off will last permanently. But anything that's like use this in the shooting phase, it lasts until the end of the shooting phase. I would bet money on that being either a core rule or in the rules commentary somewhere. Which is neat. Otherwise, they would be pretty wild. But yeah. I don't know. Ignore cover, just being able to like apply that to the thing that you're about to blow up with Brokir Thunderkin without having to fire a second unit of Brokir Thunderkin at them, which can cause all sorts of issues, seems fucking awesome. And then you can like Ancestral Sentence, sustained lethal hit, critical 4-up, and just like fucking vaporize them. So, yeah, I mean, who knows if that is going to be, now that we've seen some detachment costs, I would be surprised if Need Guard was not a 3-point detachment. However, if it ends up being 2, or any of the other ones are 2 that are pretty cool, I do think that that's like pretty neat. There's like you can take the Trivarg Cyborg implant or whatever. Trivarg Cyber Implant to do that in Brandfast Oathband, which they have confirmed in this article is 2. So you could do a kind of like poor man's ancestral sentence inside Brandfast, which might be cool. I don't know. I wonder if there's like some weird useful stuff in here. I don't know. We'll see. It does seem to me that losing Hearthband is going to be a big deal because I do think Hearthband was well situated, but to be good into the new mechanics for the new edition. So we'll have to find another way to like build the faction. Need Guard seems like a pretty strong place to be. Or if you can combo like Delve Assault Shift with a lot of this stuff, or if you can combo, I don't know, maybe it's like Mercenary Oathband good. I don't think I've ever seen anyone play it, so I have no idea. It seems cool, I guess. Yeah, we can find sustained hits in this one on Iron Master. It also gives you more control over your army ability, which is nice. You get shoot and charge when you fall back, which is good. Oh, and then it gives you all the rerolls. Yeah, it might be Mercenary Oathband. Although I have a sneaking suspicion Mercenary Oathband will also be 3. So what it'll probably be is like you'll find a combination of like Delve or Brandfast with one of these 1-pointers, or you'll take one of those 2, Need Guard or Mercenary. There's a funny thing here where this is like the Harnkin Pioneer Detachment Persecution Prospect, and I know a couple of players who fucking swear by this detachment, and I think they're insane. But this detachment, this one right here, this guy, what is this called? Farseekers, does not have any exclusive clauses. So there's no like, Herdenkin detachment. This can't be taken alongside another Herdenkin detachment. So there's like maybe a funny thing where you take the double Herdenkin detachments, because if this detachment is 3 DP, I'm gonna cut myself. This detachment is like wildly overcomplicated and not that exciting. So yeah. Well, we'll see. Cool. Well, there we go. Anyway, chat. Delve already gives the Berserk's Deep Strike because he's using the Sagittor's attachment for discount Delve, but Sagittor's are easy to wrap. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what the exact rules for wrapping are. It does mean that, like, you can, like, emergency disembark just into melee, right? Which, like, is not the end of the world. So, I don't know. And also, I think, like, having Sagittor's destroyed in melee isn't the worst thing ever, because your opponent, you can just disembark into melee and either hit them or they hit you and then you fight on death. So there's, like, you gain value, at least a little bit of value, even if your Chthonian Berserks are knocked out of their Sagittor. Persecution prospect doesn't exist if your opponent is Knights or Mech Guard. Oh, because it says exclusive monsters and vehicles. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to reread how this attachment does, because it's like crazy. It's an absolutely nuts set of abilities. That's like very complex. You have to shoot something with something to mark it, and then you get a bonus. You debuff them, and then you can spend a command point to get a bonus when you mark something. It's like a whole thing. Chat. We do have a new Warhammer TV video that is a whole thing. And I guess, are people grabbing the people are grabbing screenshots from it. There's a bunch of like mission rules. I don't know if I necessarily care that much about going like in depth through mission rules right now. But what we can do is open the screenshots that people have been taking. I would love to watch this video and like take in all the notes of it, but I do have like 2 games to stream for Twitch today. So maybe, I don't know if I'm going to have time to do that. The whole +1 to hit thing is killed by cover. Yeah, that does feel bad for all the base 4+ weapon skill factions. Even if you have bonuses to get around it, it does feel like it's like a lot. I don't know. Let's close out our window here and make this little guy a little bit smaller. Can we zoom out? You're so big. There you go, buddy. So people have been posting screenshots from the new battle report. It's like about hazard rolls on a 1 or a 2. You take 1 mortal wound if you're a monster vehicle. Oh, somebody told me that characters also take 3 mortal wounds, I thought that was part of the commentary on in the live stream, but that might have been reported. That actually makes hazard just significantly better for little characters, right? Like fucking Psychers are just overcharging all the time. This is the Psycher edition. Holy shit. Command reroll says after you make any of the following: advanced charge, damage, hazard, hit, save, wound, or roll to determine the number of attacks generated with the weapon. That's just the same, right? You reroll that roll. If you're more than 1 dice together, select 1 of the dice to reroll. So that's how it works. If you make a multi attack pool, they talk about disembarkation moves in greater detail. Very exciting. The setup distance is 3 inches, 6 inches for a combat disembark. If all the following apply to your unit, if you're embarked into the transport that is on the battlefield, you do not embark within that transport this phase. The transport has not made an advance or fallback move. Oh, okay, yeah. So you can disembark after moving, but not advanced moves, which makes sense. You set up before moving. You select the disembarkation mode. It's either a rapid disembark. Oh, interesting. It's a tactical disembark if the transport has remained stationary or has not been selected to move, or it's a combat disembark if any other things apply. So if the transport moved, it's rapid. If the transport stayed still, it's tactical. And if you like blow up, it's combat. But combat disembarkation is a 6-inch range. Set up each model within the setup distance of the transport. Hold up. Wait a minute. What the fuck? What was the whole thing about where they have to go base contact? Was that just a lie from the live stream? they literally had a whole section where they talked about it. And that's just like not in the rule? What? So you set up wholly within the setup distance of the transport, rapid disembarkation. Each battle follows the same rules the transport had to follow in resolving the move. Oh, for ingress move. So you have to stay 9 inches away from enemies or 8 inches away from enemies, most likely. That means if you have a way to 6-inch deep strike a transport, it's actually really good. Combat disembark. Each model can be set up with one or more enemy units that the transport is engaged with. Oh, so you can't set up an engagement range of new enemies. That's good to know. And after moving, if you rapid disembarked, you can't charge. If you tactical disembarked, you must make a normal or advanced move. If you combat disembarked, you're battle shock and not eligible to declare a charge. And you make a hazard roll before you set up. Oh, that's interesting. So the hazard rolls for somebody's calling my cell phone. The hazard roll, but I have no idea where it is. For disembarking destroyed transports are definitionally occur at the beginning. Let's see. That's bizarre about the base contact thing. The base contact thing is just not in the rules, apparently. I wonder where the fuck that came from. I don't understand. Like, am I stupid? I'm so confused. Am I crazy? I thought I absolutely could have sworn that was a whole section of the live stream. I feel like gaslighted right now. That's so bizarre. I'm gonna go back to the live stream. I'm gonna find the section where they talk about that. I'm gonna crash out. So they had a section where they discussed that when a unit's in a destroyed transport, they set up base contact with the destroyed transport, and then if the model can't set up base contact, there's no more room, then they set up like progressively farther away from it. There was like a whole discussion. Like there's like but now it's just wholly within a distance, which is fucking wild. I'm so confused. Does the rule include rapid ingress? Yeah, ingress moves are what they call just coming out of reserve now. For sure. Maybe the setup distance to the top is maximum. No, but it says that when you set up, you set up wholly within that distance. So unless there are more rules here that like we're missing, but I doubt it, right? It just says that you put each model wholly within the setup distance, and that's it. That's so fucking weird. I don't know. I'm gonna look that up later. I'm not gonna do it on stream, but I'm gonna look it up later. Bizarre. Here's another thing, chat, is that they don't cover disembarking large models, which is a little bit annoying. So get fucking shit on. If you have a big transport. If you're transporting big stuff. Let's see. Talk about combat moves. If it is the pilot move, if it's the fight phase, and one or more of the following apply to your unit, it's engaged. I'm going to charge for this turn. It was selected to make an overrun this turn. Love it. You described as moving. You select pylon targets. This is a step of the fight phase, by the way, folks. This happens in at the start of the fight phase after charging. Every unit makes a pile and move one at a time. If your unit is engaged, so you select every enemy you're engaged with. Otherwise, you select one or more enemy units within 5 inches. When moving, if you're in base contact with a model, you cannot be moved. That makes sense. Each model that is moved must end closer to the closest pile-in target and engaged with it if possible. And this is each time a model has moved, so you can still do like weird chicanery where you like block off its ability to engage people. However, with a 2-inch band, it's much more difficult to do. After moving, your unit must be engaged. Each model that started the move engaged with an enemy unit must still be engaged with that enemy unit. That's very annoying, actually. There was an interaction in 9th edition where you could bounce between units by preferentially making one or more of them closer. I do like that it doesn't require you to base, so the movement's a lot more fluid. I don't know if I don't think I like this clause. You must still be engaged with the enemy unit that you started the move engaged with, because I think that closes up a lot of like interesting movement, and it does create weird situations where like you could like randomly be caught out by moving incorrectly. It's kind of funny because it's like once you break down, for the most part, these pile-in rules are not like wildly different than the pile-in rules we've seen in the past. But it is funny once you break them down to individual bullet points how fucking long it is. Like, goddamn, combat movement is so complicated. Why is it so complicated? I do like this a lot better than the current version, though. I will say. Just requiring that you move closer and be engaged. You don't have to be 1 inch away. You don't have to be base contact. You just have to nudge a little bit closer. With the express requirement that you don't unengage yourself, I think is actually pretty sweet. So I'm into it. I'm much more interested in this kind of stuff. The other thing too is that what was I going to say? I think large models are going to have a much more fun time with this. Like, speaking as someone who only exclusively plays armies composed of 6 guys, things like, Greater Demons and Knights and Monsters and stuff are going to have a much more fun time because they don't get pinned as often, right? Your opponent can come and base you, but you don't have to base yourself. So you don't come into situations where you're like, oh, I can't pile in or consolidate and I can't engage anybody. If I engage like basically at all. There's an interesting sort of clause in here in the center pit, though, that you select pile-in targets, which is every enemy you're engaged with, otherwise it's enemies within 5. So the implication there is that you cannot pile into new enemies, which I think is interesting. That does prevent you from being able to like slingshot charge, basically. Because if you're already engaged with an enemy, then you cannot engage new enemies. That it does require that you make an overrun fight in order to engage new stuff, though. Did they make it complicated on purpose? Yes. They absolutely did. It's gonna take a little bit of like working to sort of like parse through that. I think I understand it. I think I can grok it. So it's like you charged in, you're engaged, start of the fight phase, you go, every enemy unit I'm engaged with, I can pile towards, and then every model just goes closer to them. It is interesting that the after moving section doesn't restrict you from re-engaging or from moving out of engagement range with new enemy models. However, it does require that you stay engaged with the same unit. So you can bounce between models, just not bounce between units, which is that helps a lot better more as well. Does this make any practical difference with undeclared charges in 2-inch engagement range? I'm not sure what the question is asking. I don't know. They have a thing about ingress moves. Setup distance 6. You're eligible if your unit is in strategic reserve, excluding units that are embarked in transports that are themselves within strategic reserve. You set up wholly within the setup distance of a battlefield edge, more than 8 inches horizontally away from enemy units. Oh, the setup distance, I guess, is the different distance from battlefield edges. I do wonder if that means that this is modal for large units. Like a big thing like a Bane Blade may have a setup distance equal to its size. It's like, I don't know. It's weird to define that as a term, I guess, when we could just say 6 inches. But that if it is a defined term, I think that means that things will change how big it is. 8 inches horizontally away from enemy units. Before the 3rd battle round, no models can be set up within your opponent's deployment zone, unless otherwise stated. Until the start of the next charge phase, your unit is not eligible to make any other type of move. Well, that's very big, chat. So theoretically, you can't do shoot and scoot stuff. So you can't, like, a gargoyle unit can't come out of reserve and then move itself, unless there are different rules for deep strike. That's actually fucking massive, dude. That changes a lot of units. That does actually just straight up kill gargoyles. Maybe it does. I don't know. I think that you're all on Hormagaunts though, for sure. Wild. Back in my day, we didn't have any of this stuff. Against your opponent was you shoot your enemy if you hit, you roll damage. I guarantee that that's actually not the case. I guarantee that older editions of 40k had equally as stupid combat rules. You probably just didn't crack it, so like how silly they were. Yeah, 1,000 Suns, ritual after deep striking. It to be fair, this does basically describe the strategic reserve rules. I do wonder if there are different rules for deep striking. I would love to see those. Interesting. Close quarters shooting. You're eligible if you are engaged and did not make an advanced move this turn. You have one or more close quarter weapons, or you are a monster or vehicle. You shoot enemy units your unit is engaged with. You get -1 to hit. If the attack is a blast weapon, it cannot target the unit you're engaged with.
At Bucket Hofsteel Sybil donated $2 through Super Chat. Teraxii Skystalkers found dead in ditch.
Hell yeah. That's actually wild. I wonder... Because I think, like, Siegler did play them in that game against Liam. And I do remember the Skystalkers, I don't think they moved after shooting. So I do wonder if that is actually the case for Deep Strikers as well. That changes quite a bit. Throwing my gargoyles in the trash right now. You can't perform an action, non-monster, non-vehicles. You can only select close quarter weapons to make attacks with, and you can only select units you're engaged with. Yeah, so I think these rules are basically all the same. That's fine. The Insane Bravery got posted. It's unchanged. There's a thing on consolidation moves. You're eligible to consolidate if it's the fight phase and your unit was eligible to fight this phase. Your unit is described as moving. You select the consolidation mode. If your unit is engaged, you must select this mode and select every enemy unit it is engaged with. Engage in consolidation selects if you're within 3 inches of one or more enemy units, you select that mode. If your unit is within 3 inches of one or more objectives, you select this mode. Then, if you use an ongoing consolidation, you move everyone closer to the closest selected enemy unit. Not model? Let's go! What? That's crazy, actually. Okay. It also means that you don't consolidate into new units. So let's say I'm strung and I'm engaged with an enemy. I'm engaged with an enemy on one end of my string, and I have another unit that's like 2.1 inches away on the other side of the string. I have to select ongoing consolidation, and my whole unit moves towards the model I'm engaged with, away from the other enemies. Interesting. It also is clear that it is each model that is moved, so there's no requirement to move each model. You can just choose not to. It also doesn't have to end as close as possible, which is important. Each model that is moved must end its move closer to the closest selected enemy unit for engaging consolidation and engage with it if possible. And objective consolidation, each model that is moved must end its move within range of the selected objective possible or closer if not. That is very interesting. So it is, unless you destroy everyone in melee with you, it is not possible to engage a new enemy off of a fight. That's actually fucking wild. So like orcs charging in, they're like, we're gonna do a slingshot maneuver, and they charge. They can't pile in to units they're not engaged with because they only choose their engaged units as pile in targets. And then if they don't kill them, they can't consolidate into anyone else. Oh boy, that's wild. And then ongoing consolidation, you have to remain engaged with the enemy unit that you started engaged with. Engaging consolidation, your unit must be engaged with all of these selected enemy units. If one or more enemy units engaged with your opponent must not have not been selected for fight phase, your opponent must select one of these units one at a time. It becomes eligible to fight and is selected to fight. So engaging consolidation makes them fight immediately? Is that true? If one or more enemy units engaged with your unit have not been selected to fight after moving, your opponent must select each of those units one at a time. When each is selected, it becomes eligible and is selected to fight. Wait. So it's like, if I'm in the middle of my fight phase and one unit destroys another unit and I perform an engaging consolidation and engage like two enemies, my opponent just gets to back-to-back activate all of them. Wait, that's actually sick. What the fuck? That could be really weird. If you set up a situation where you can engage with multiple units, you can force your opponent to activate into like something shitty, right? Where you're like, I've like destroyed my target, so I'm gonna engage you with like 10 guardsmen, which means you won't activate into my Bulgrin that are about to consolidate into you after they like perform their overrun move. That's bizarre. That's super duper bizarre. If they can't kill, they can't consolidate. Yeah, you consolidate into the thing you're already engaging. So if you don't kill your charge target, you're just stuck on them. You don't go anywhere else. Consolidating's at the end of the phase. There's like a consolidation step. I know that pile-in's at the start, but I was under the impression that consolidation still happened after your fight phase, right? I guess I don't know that for sure. Interesting. Those are all the rules that I have without going through the entire video, like step by step. Everyone consolidates together at the end. Is that the case? I guess. Did they talk about consolidation in an article? I knew that that's the case for pile-in. I was not aware that was the case for consolidation. I know they talked about it in the thing where they talked about overrun moves, which is somewhere. Should just have a. We should just be compiling a list of every single preview article so we can find them very easily. It's annoying to go through Warhammer Community. I have no fucking idea where the article is. This is riveting content, I'm sure. Sounded like the World Eaters faction focus, is it? I know that they use World Eaters as an example. I legitimately cannot find this article, chat. If somebody has a link for me, then I'll that would be sweet, but I have no idea where it is. Yeah, I give up. I don't know. That may very well be the case. I don't remember them talking about that, but that could be true. Yeah, I thought there was a fight phase article. I just like straight up can't find it on Warhammer Community. Let's look at fight. Combat changes in April 26th. Is it this one? Making a charge move, pile-in moves. Players' turn is resolve all their pile-ins, blah, blah, blah. Fighting works the same. Then you do fights. Then you do overrun fights. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're so right, chap. You make them all at the same time. Okay, so it does make sense. It still, I think, is the case that you could force people to activate into something, right? Because they activate immediately upon engagement, unless this is an after moving thing. Oh, it is an after. Yeah. So that is the case. So you go, you do all your pylons, you do all your fights. If you clear yourself, you can do an engaging consolidation, and then you can move your shitty trash unit at the start of the engaging consolidation step, and then you can engage your opponent's units, like your opponent's combat units, and you force them to attack you, and then you can engage them with a second, your more important unit, right? So if there's a billion, I don't know, there's a bunch of Deathwing Knights or something, and I've tank shocked you with a Rhino. I can engage you with the Rhino, and then if you kill the Rhino, I can engage you with a second unit if they've already charged also, right? So there's some weird instances where you can force them to fight into the things that they're really bad against. I guess the Rhino's maybe a bad example. Deathwing Knights with maces that are punching 20 Gretchen or something. And then you just pin them with a big thing that you don't want them to swing into, and then they just have to sit there for a turn unless they have fallback and charge. Although, to be fair, they will swing first on their turn, because that's how the rules work now. So, pretty interesting. I think that's all I have. So, yeah, I don't know. I'll probably need to go through the video. It's unfortunate that I have a bunch of shit to do today. This was not the ideal day for a video to come out, but I don't know if they pre-declared that. If they had done that and I just wasn't paying attention. But I'll probably have to go through and talk about all of the stuff that they'd put in there. I don't think that these are particularly wildly more complicated than the existing rules. It's just that it's broken down in a more comprehensive way, which makes it look more complicated, but the rules are actually the same. The difference between ongoing consolidation and objective consolidation is just exactly they're basically identical to what they were currently. It's just that instead of saying you move to the closest enemy model unless you can't, and then if you can, you're in range of an objective, you go to an objective, and it just says you do the closest enemy thing, otherwise you do this other type of move, and then it describes what the other type of move is. I think it's the same thing. So I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, chat. The change to deep strike units is actually fucking wild. Where you're theoretically not able to move after doing stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna talk about today. Please come hang out with me over on Twitch. I'm gonna be live there in an hour or so. Because it is time for, here you go. Here's my link. Because we're doing some pod finals today. There's pod finals today. We have the Black Crusade finals tomorrow. So there's I'm going to be live in an hour, and then I'm going to be live at 9 p.m. U.S. Eastern, so in about 9 hours, 8.5 hours, for 2 different finals games, and then we'll also be live tomorrow at, I think it's 1 p.m. is when it's happening. So please come hang out with me over there. I'm sure we'll talk more about these new mechanics, and I'll probably, in the interim, dive into the new video and take a peek at what they got going on. So thanks everyone for hanging out with me today. Keep it classy, folks, and all that stuff, and I'll see you over on Twitch. Cheers, everybody.